bruh, bruh, bruh.
It's rubbish attempt at creating a factual acronym Tuesday.
Well, hey there, everybody. This is Super Blood Hockey, which comes to us in 2017 from Lauren Lemke. And Super Blood Hockey comes into my world with some strikes against it right out the gate. Because it seems to me to be, based on its name mostly and based on what I had seen of it before I purchased it, seemed an awful lot like the NHL Hits and NFL Blitz type concept. Those are two game series that I don't know whether or not they exist anymore, because they weren't good. I never thought they were good. Some people might have liked them. I mean, they did move some units. I had a roommate who used to play some NFL Blitz. I thought it was terrible. I hated it. And it wasn't because, because there tend to be two types of sports games that you can play. The more arcade version, which is like NBA Jam, which, NBA Jam is a great example of how to do this kind of a game right, where you're, dunking 30 feet in the air and you're shooting the basketball so accurately it catches the net on fire. Very fun, whimsical, arcade-like sports game. And then you have, 2K and whatnot, where people are like, I want the actual rosters and I want all of the stats to be correct. And where people get very, very anal about getting the exact experience of the exact game as it exists in real life. And the funny thing is that, you'll find people who will play one type of sports game and not the other, but you'll probably find more people who will play both, who are not turned off by a good arcade-style experience, but who also enjoy a nice, realistic game as well. And that is where I fall, pretty much. I've enjoyed me some Madden, which is incredibly realistic, and I also really like 10 Yard Fight, which is the dumbest football game ever made. Just dumb. It's just a big pile of dumb. It doesn't make any sense as a football game, and yet it's a glorious little bit of vintage gaming that I have too much fun with. I'll just be honest with you. I have too much fun with it. So yeah, I enjoy both styles. But here's the thing. Here's what actually makes these games work when they work. If you're going to do an arcade-style game, you have to reduce the game to its most exciting and fun parts. And you have to choose the actual parts that the fans actually care about. And this is where NBA Jam succeeds and where NHL Hits with a Z and NFL Blitz with a Z fail. Because NBA Jam was like, yeah, don't pass the ball to a bunch of teammates, keep it yourself and dunk it super hard. Keep the ball yourself, shoot it from half court, and if you make it, the net's gonna catch on fire. It just makes it the most fun parts of the game. But where NHL Hits and NFL Blitz fail is that they assume incorrectly that what the fans like the most about football and hockey, respectively, is the violence. Which, violence is a part of the game, and we don't want zero violence. That would be really weird. If you're like, it's a hockey game, but you can't do any violence, then people would be like, well, then it's not a hockey game. Because hockey must have violence. It's gotta, you just do. Number one comment, because I watched a lot of the games of last season's women's hockey league that just started. The WHL, or PWHL, Professional Women's Hockey League. That's the one. Anyway, watch the entire season when none of the teams had names, but, Toronto had Sarah Nurse, and that's all I need to know. For real. Hello, Nurse. Anyway, seriously, look her up. She's a really good hockey player. It's true. But for real, I watched that league and I was in the comments section, and what were people saying all the time? Let these women be a little more violent with each other, because they were calling things too early, and people were flipping back and forth between the men's game and the women's game. Super common. I did it myself quite a bit, because the women's league overlapped with some of the crucial points in the men's league's games. And I needed my Maple Leafs winning, And yeah, so I was flipping back and forth, and people would be like, it's got to have more violence, let the women, mix it up a little bit. That's what people wanted. And I admit, I wanted that as well. And I am probably not wrong in saying that the players want it as well, because they want to be taken seriously. And I take them seriously plenty, but like, I think that you see the players are prepared for more than the refs are willing to give them. Anyway, regardless. Violence is a part of the game, but it's not the part that people want to recreate the most. Because in both the NHL and the NFL, what people want to recreate the most when they play the video games is what it's like to be an incredible player. What's it like to be a 60-goal scorer with the puck on a breakaway? What's that like? What's it like to be a running back with amazing juke moves and whatnot, who can just sidestep anybody and break it for 100 yards? What is that like? That's what people want to play. That's the essential part of the game. And so what NHL Hitz and NFL Blitz miss entirely is that part of it. The part of it that is fun, the part of it that is the essential fun that draws the fans to the actual game. It's the skill. It's the skill, not the violence. And so, when I saw this game and I saw what it looked like and I saw its title, I assumed that it would be kind of like the terrible joke that everyone tells me when they tell me that, like, oh, you like hockey? Well, I don't really know anything about hockey, but have you ever heard this one? Yeah, I went to a hockey game, or went to a fight the other night and a hockey game broke out. Ha 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 ha. Ah ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. So funny. Because I've heard that joke like literally dozens of times. And what it tells you is that people don't actually understand. Like, yes, there is fighting in hockey. There is. Is there a fight in every single game? No, because that wouldn't make sense. Because you don't drop the gloves all the time, because there is a downside to it. If you take an instigating penalty, it can really hurt your team in a bad way. But if you fight somebody when it's justified and your team needs a little, fire in their belly to push them up over the top and, get them back in a game that starts slipping away from them, punching the other team's best guy, or in some cases, worst guy with the biggest mouth, that is going to do wonders for the motivation on your team if you win the fight. That's why it's a part of the game. But it doesn't happen in every game. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And so when I see games that are playing up the violent side of hockey, I tend to think like, okay, you don't get it. You don't, because it just, it seems essentializing. And this game seemed like it was essentializing. Even though a lot of people who really like cool games recommended this to me, it seemed like it was essentializing the wrong part of the game and that I wasn't going to actually like it at all. It looks too much like ice hockey on the NES as opposed to Blades of Steel, which is the superior game as far as I'm concerned and as far as most people are concerned. And it also has a complete and utter disregard of the rules of hockey. There's no offsides, no icing, no nothing. There's just two rules, which are, score go up when puck go in net, and team who win fight go on power play, which is not how that actually works in hockey. But when you do get a power play, the other team's player will be, bleeding on the ice. It's not a penalty box situation. Dude's just laying on the ice bleeding like Clint Malarchuk. And that is how you get the buttholes of all of the old hockey fans to pucker all at the same time. Because anybody who remembers that incident is like, oh, geez, he nearly died. Yeah, he did. Don't Google it if you're squeamish. Clint Malarchuk, like, oh boy. Anyway, but yeah, so I didn't know going into this game whether or not it was going to be the wrong kind of hockey game for me. But, even though there is an emphasis on blood, which does shed itself all over the ice with every single hit, big or small, and even though it brings back one of my least favorite features of vintage sports games, which is that teams have colors that are, make no sense for who they are. because of licensing deals. You play games where it's like, it's Boston, and they're the complete wrong color for Boston. Yeah, it's that kind of a thing. Except for this game is with countries, not with cities, and so there aren't any problems with potentially being like, wait, you chose Toronto and you're blue. What are you trying to pull here? There's no risk of that, and yet like all the teams are the wrong color. It's annoying. I hate it. And so I'm like, man, am I gonna like this game at all? He asked so late in the review. And the answer is, yeah, actually quite a bit, weirdly so. I have my gripes about this game, and I do think that in some ways it tends to the wrong side of an interpretation of what is the most fun about hockey, but it gets the right things really, really right. So yeah, and it's also a whole lot of fun. So the question is, what is good about this game? Well, first of all, the goaltending. The goaltending is great, both in the way that it looks, in the animations, and in its overall effectiveness. You don't find a lot of good goaltending in hockey games of a vintage style. I mean, Blades of Steel, oh boy. Like, you're going to let in a lot of pucks. It is hard to be a goaltender against the CPU, who is really good at goaltending for some reason, and you never get to be. It's kind of a pain in the butt that way. And that, Blades of Steel, is a hockey game that I happen to love quite a bit. And yeah, that, the beauty of the net minding in this game, it just kind of puts it over the top for me, because I love goalies. Like, goalies are awesome. Everybody loves goalies. It's one of the best parts of hockey. Who, like, honestly, if your team, there is nothing in the world that feels better than, knowing that you've got a hot goalie in the net. Oh, man. That is an incredible feeling. It's how the Rangers feel right now. Yeah, for real. Shesterkin, he's out of his mind right now. Anyway, regardless, goaltending is awesome. Secondly, the game requires you to pick up the skill to play it. You're not going to be scoring goals unless you learn how to move the puck and how to hit one-timers, which is kind of hard because the pass and shoot buttons are the opposite of where I would put them if I were able to adjust the controller settings, which I'm not able to do, which I don't like, and they should. Please let me configure my controls. I'll be so much better at this game. Anyway, but yeah, you have to have some skill to be able to play it. And finally, buried at the bottom of the list, just like it's buried in the menu system, is what really, really makes this game awesome. Franchise mode. In franchise mode, you get to control ridiculously named players because the random name generator in this game is hilarious. And you get to create your own ridiculously named team. I cannot tell you what the name of my franchise team is because it's... I wanted to see if it would let me get away with bad words, and it did. So just know that. Just know that going in. Anyway, and yeah, you get to create your own ridiculously named team. You control the coach, who literally gives up his own kidney in order to buy prisoners, because we also learned that in this game that all the players are actually prisoners playing for the entertainment of some dystopian Canadians, I'm guessing. You buy yourself 4 gators and a goalie with that sweet, sweet kidney money, and you hit the ice with your squad. If you win games, you earn more money, which you use to improve the players via either their diet or illegal drug intake, which you can get them to take illegal drugs. No, seriously, you totally can. Or, yeah, you can buy more prisoners, up to 16 on the team, to improve the team overall. There's just a ton to do. You control what they do daily. You control how much they eat, so you can watch their weight go up and down and whatnot. Like, so many things to control in franchise mode. It's so awesome. And yet it's kind of buried in there, like... You would hardly know that that's what you're supposed to do. And there's also challenges and whatnot. There's a whole bunch to do in this game, but it doesn't tell you that right off the bat. It doesn't reveal itself to you easily. But once you see under the hood, you're going to see, like, okay, whoever made this game actually gets it. Because, yeah, it is, all in all, a fun little game. I'm giving it an 8 out of a possible 10 Flames logos. And, yeah, because there was that team that I used to root for from my home state, because when I first became a hockey fan, it was between the Calgary Flames or the Toronto Maple Leafs. I chose the Maple Leafs, and everybody has said I made a mistake every time I ever tell anybody that. And be that as it may, go Leafs go till I die. But, my Western Conference team is now the Calgary Flames because I've got Flames fan friends going way back. And so, it just seems fitting. But also, the Sea of Red, they are as down on their luck as the Leafs have been, more in a rebuilding phase than the Leafs are, but whatever. Anyway, we're not here to talk about this. We're here to wrap this up because this review went on for way too long. Anyway, people, I'm going to speed this one up in post so that it sounds faster. Anyway, people, that's going to do it for this one. I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.